Sometimes it's the little details that make or break a user experience. At the intersection of design and development, those details can turn something functional into something truly delightful. I'm James Stone, a front-end developer, designer, and fractional lead based in Helsinki. In each episode, I'll share lessons from the trenches, stories of challenges overcome, and conversation with my peers who are shaping the modern web. Join me for a stone's throw into code. Hello and welcome, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to episode 0, or the Start Here episode. My name is James Stone, and I'm the host of this podcast. And I want to tell you a little bit about what this episode is. Basically, we're going to go through some details telling you about why this podcast exists. It's a little bit about me and kind of intro you to the series and what was some of my thinking behind that. So as a quick agenda, the first thing I'm going to do is talk about who I am in a little bit more detail. Second, I'm going to talk about why this podcast exists. Third thing I'm going to talk about is things I've worked on before, just so you get an idea of other projects I've been involved with, what the format will be of the podcast, and some general topics that I'm going to cover. And at the end, I'll give you just a quick note about how you can subscribe or engage with me further. So with that, we'll jump into who am I? So like I said, my name is James Stone. I am a expat from the United States living in Helsinki, Finland, and I've been here for about 8 years in Finland. And I've been working on the front end of web development for 12 years. And basically, I've worked here for a long time. I've been involved with some other podcasts and public speaking, but I thought that I would like to have a place to express some of the ideas and also interview some of these great people that I've been involved with in the tech sector. And often these are kind of conversations going on behind the scenes. And so I want to kind of introduce other people to some of the interesting and exciting conversations I've had. And that brings me to, why does this podcast exist? Believe it or not, this podcast has been 6 months in the making. That's not to say that it's so well thought out, but just that it's been something I've wanted to do. I've been thinking about things and planning things, but it's right now, today is June 11th. I'm actually recording this episode, and you're hopefully listening to it shortly thereafter. I'm also planning to push this over to my YouTube channel, which is kind of a bit more of an expressive space. But the big reason why I created it is I wanted a place to engage with thought leaders, with developers, with designers, startup founders, people doing very interesting things, having very interesting thoughts about how to approach products in, I don't know, you would call this the 2020s, the modern times. And this is kind of an outlet for me to think about these ideas in an open space and also create some discourse around it. And now I'll talk a little bit about what kind of things I've done before. I think I'm the most well-known for being a top contributor to Zerb Foundation, which is a CSS framework that was very popular about, I don't know, certainly very popular about 10 years ago, and got famous, or a small internet famous, from creating some YouTube videos and educating people and teaching online. And it led into a whole freelance career. So you can always take a look at my YouTube channel if you're interested. Another project I worked on about 5-6 years ago was a Composing Code podcast with Shane, my co-host. And we created, I can't remember how many episodes, maybe 8 or 10 episodes, but we ended up going on a hiatus, which we ended up discontinuing the project, and it's no longer online, but I'm in the process of trying to revive some of those episodes that I have available to myself. Sorry, not to myself, but that I have available. And hopefully you'll be able to listen to some of those pretty soon as well. I've also done a lot of public speaking, dev culture stuff. I've done speaking at local meetups like Helsinki JS and Helsinki React. I've also done a panel with React Finland and done a lot of speaking at Futurist, all their different internal and global events. And yeah, I've done a few things. Now let's talk a little bit about what the format will be like. So this is going to be a mix of solo talks and also short form interviews. So my goal is to keep it around the 20-25 minute mark, not this long, rambly, very conversational podcast, but something a little bit more focused, but maybe not completely hyper-focused. So you're going to hear focused topics either from me solo or from people that I'm interviewing. And this is going to happen about once every 2 weeks. I'll have a new release. And you might have heard some small mistakes in my delivery, and that's actually intentional because I'm going for a one-take podcast. So there could be some small mistakes in what I'm speaking, and you'll just hear me correct, kind of like if I was presenting something live. So some general topics that I'm going to be covering is front-end web development and the web as a platform. So I've worked a lot also with Capacitor, tri-platform apps. So these are hybridic web apps that it can be deployed to iOS or Android or the web as well. Coding culture, philosophy, functional programming, TypeScript. I'm big into the React ecosystem, design systems, design to developer handoff, working fast, creating MVPs end to end, and basically anything that happens there in between. So with that, I bid you adieu for episode 0. And I wanted to invite you, if you want to learn more or to subscribe or get involved with the podcast, to check out podcast.jamesstone.com. Once again, podcast.jamesstone.com. All right. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.